Okay, so in this screencast, we're going to create a form with a dynamic dropdown. The dropdown will show a list of cities that we retrieve from a JSON data source. So our first step is to create the script that sends the JSON data. So we'll load up our editor. We've already created a few blank scripts here, but we'll fill these in as we go. So json.php. So we create an array. This is just a PHP array with just a list of cities. So Adelaide, Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, and we can send back this in JSON format, which is basically just JavaScript code using JSON encode. So we just pass the array and save the script. Now back in Chrome, let's just load this file. So that's the array we just created. If we actually look in developer tools, the script here under resources, now it's sent it with content type text HTML. So technically this isn't really a problem. It will work, but to be correct, it needs to be application JSON content type. So just back in json.php, use the header function, content type, and then save, reload. Now if we look here, it's application JSON, and Chrome gives us a warning here. That's just because we try to display it as a normal HTML page even though it's not. So that's the data source done. Next we're going to create some JavaScript to actually output that. So let's go back here. The script, we'll just update now to load a select box. Now this doesn't actually do anything. All we're going to do is populate this. So let's call it city, and we'll give it an ID of city list. This is so we can refer to it later in our JavaScript. And we'll just put a blank element that instructs the user to select an element, select a city. And if we save that and go back to the index script, now got this drop down which will populate shortly. So we're using jQuery in this to make things a little bit simpler. We're going to use Google's hosted version of jQuery, which we can Google jQuery, and I think it's the first link. So we just click on jQuery and it shows you the versions that they host. You can either use their loader or just go straight to the path, so we'll do that. We'll get the minified version because it loads quicker. We don't need the full source code. So let's just load this here. So that's all we need to do to import jQuery into our script. And we're about to create this script.js file, so we'll just load that one as well. Okay, so that's now loading. Doesn't actually do anything yet, but what we can do is just ensure that jQuery is loaded. So this is the, I guess, on DOM loaded event. Save that one. Let's go back to the browser. We don't need this anymore. So refresh, and now hopefully we'll get an alert box just to ensure that jQuery is loaded. And there we go. So that means we can keep going. Now we go back, we can remove this alert. So now what we want to do is use the jQuery getJSON function So for that, we just call $get JSON. Now our script is called json.php, so put that in, and the callback is the second function. And when the callback's called, the data returned from the script will be passed as the first argument. So it's our placeholder. Now you can have a look at that before we do anything with it. Just throw in a console.log, pass the data, save, and return to Chrome. Now if we load developer tools, let's refresh this page. So now you can see this script here, after the JavaScript was loaded, it performed the JSON query. So that's what we created earlier on, but you can see this output that we wrote to the console. So with most of the way there, all we need to do now is use this data to populate this select box. So returning to our editor. So we just $each, pass the array as the first argument and the callback as the second. First argument to the callback is the index, so that's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3 in this case. And the second argument is the value, which is the name of the city, which is what we're going to use. So for each iteration of this loop, we're going to write a new option to the select box. So first we need to get the select box. So we're going to call it var select, and we called that city list. And then in each iteration here we go option, create the new option. So we set the value attribute, so when the form's submitted the value is passed in. And we set the HTML using the .html function, so we just pass the city name again, and finally we append it to the select, so append to select. Now we can save, return to Chrome, and refresh. Now we've got our developer tools still open, so you can see they're all appearing here, and the drop down. And that's all there is to it. Now we haven't actually done anything with this list, but you can use this inside your normal forms, and or you can trigger the load after a particular button's pressed. Here we've just made it simple and doing it on load, but you can really do it however you need to.